Building a family can be a complicated, messy, lonely, and sometimes heartbreaking process. But you don't have to navigate this challenging journey alone.
Welcome to the All Paths podcast, where we support and celebrate all of the different ways there are to grow your family. We're your hosts, Emily and Kate, from the nonprofit organization All Paths Family Building. And today we're so excited to be talking to someone who has been a friend of our organization for many years, personally and professionally. And so Staci, thank you for joining us today, and we're looking forward to hearing about your journey.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So before we get into hearing more about your family building journey, we'd love for you to introduce yourself for our listeners.
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Staci Swiderski. I am the CEO and owner-founder of Family Source Consultants. And I personally have been an egg donor myself twice for the same family, an open donation. And then prior to that, what led me to that was my husband and I, we built our family through third-party reproduction, through surrogacy. So we have a son who is 19 now, so many years ago. And like I said, the founder of Family Source Consultants, that we opened the doors almost 18 years ago, back in 2007. So
Oh, wow.
happy to be here. So thank you again.
That's so great. So you actually became a parent prior to sort of becoming a parent to your company as well.
I sure did, yes. And that really is what introduced me to really opening the doors to Family Source Consultants. Our son was born in 2005, so just 2 years before Family Source Consultants was opened. Yeah.
Great. So how did your journey to becoming a parent start? And tell us more about that.
Yeah, my goodness, do we have a few days?
I know, right?
So I researched family building through surrogacy probably about 5 years prior to having success. So once my husband and I were ready to move forward with surrogacy, because we knew all along we had to go with the surrogacy route. I had a partial hysterectomy. So I was one of the lucky ones where I didn't really have to face infertility per se, engraving losses or, unsuccessful attempts at IVF or IUI. So I knew right out of the gates I did have to go through surrogacy to build our family. But that still was a bumpy road. So we went, about 3 years worth of a few different surrogates along the way, failed IVFs, 2 different egg retrievals, different fertility centers. So it was a bumpy road, and we did finally have success. And again, my son now he's 19, just turned 19 in June. But really, those triumphs really is what made me realize that I want to help other people on such a higher level. So if there's anything that I can do to remove any roadblocks so they can maybe get to their finish line a little quicker than what we did would be amazing. And it's just talking to so many people during my own journey prior to opening the doors of Family Source. I just knew at that point I wanted to start an organization that could really be more the business side of it and bring in my compassion. So that's kind of a quick intro to what really opened the doors.
So it sounds like it was, like you said, a challenging road, even if you knew kind of from the beginning that this was going to be the pathway for you. What were your sources of support during the time?
Yeah, that's a great question, because back then, say 2003, is when we really kind of hit the road running, knowing that this is how we're going to build our family. There weren't near as many that we have today, clearly. And we didn't have, the Facebooks even, or the social media that we had. There were a few different options, but they weren't super realistic. Right. And so it was really minimal. And I really gravitated more towards people who I met through a couple of these resources. And my light at the end of the day was knowing that they had success. And I knew that it was possible, but we really zigzagged to get to that finish line. And so, just leaning on also professionals, our attorney at the time, the fertility center, but just not the support that we have today, which I'm grateful that it has evolved to, what we do have at our fingertips.
For sure. And as you know, that's very close to our hearts, for sure. So, we always think about how this impacts you as a couple so much for those that are going through this with a partner. And then also it can impact really other relationships in your life as well. So can you talk about that a little bit? What were the impacts beyond you as an individual?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. And during our journey, leading up to having a successful surrogacy journey, and then during that journey, my husband was definitely he was a sense of support, but I was the one that really was pushing it through. Had it been up to him, he would have said, "Well, maybe it's just not meant to be," and I think he just handled his stress a little differently than I did. He kind of kept it all in. But I knew at the end of the day that we were going to have success, whatever we had to do to make it work. So I really was the one to keep pushing it forward. And thankfully, again, I did have a few people in my life that really was encouraging me to not give up. But as a man, I don't know how much he really spoke to anybody, and I think that is something that's really important because men probably don't really, get on the phone or, talk about, the losses or the challenges as us women do. I'm sure there are some that do, but maybe it's just not as common. But yeah, so he was very supportive, but yet just was kind of like, whatever you want to do, I'm there to support you, but we don't need to talk about it every single day. Where to me, I'm like, that's all I wanted to talk about. So
Exactly.
thankfully I did have a couple other outlets. Otherwise, I would have probably really driven crazy.
I hear you. And I mean, I think sometimes if a lot of the physical procedures are being done on the female partner, again, if there is one, then I think sometimes the other partner doesn't feel like they are important. But of course, like their emotional journey especially is still so valid and really transcends gender. So we do have a group just for men. One of our peer support groups is just for men, and it's open to anyone across the whole country. So feel free to share it. And some incredible connections have been happening in that group, which is we'd love to see. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, that would be really helpful to share with too.
Yeah.
And if they can use those resources, great. But if they don't want to at this time, that's fine as well. But at least they have that information.
Yeah.
So
That's great. I'd love to hear more about your two times being an egg donor.
Yes. So after our son was born, in 2005, a friend of mine had a neighbor who was going through infertility, and they already had a daughter that they had adopted, and apparently they just put out like an email to their subdivision and said, "Hey, this is where we're at, and we would like to, anybody out there that knows of somebody who would want to be an egg donor." And so she just shared that with me, and I said, I never thought about being an egg donor, but I'm not against it. I mean, I've gone through at this point, I went through a couple of my own egg retrievals. So I knew I could produce the eggs, and my husband and I, we had, good quality embryos. So I thought, well, maybe I can help. And the actual egg retrieval process for me, it wasn't bad, So I knew though the genetic piece was something that obviously is very important. My husband and I, like I said, we utilized my eggs to have our son. And so his genetically ours. But so I had to obviously be comfortable with the genetic piece of being an egg donor. And, I really feel that researching surrogacy for so many years before we finally decided to move forward, I met so many people that had to utilize an egg donor. So I really had that empathy piece where after our son was born, I thought, somebody helped me build our family. And if I can give back in a way that um, I can do, I want to do that. And so I reached out and I said, I would be happy to be your egg donor if you want me, and we all lived in the same state. So I actually drove out there and met with them in person. And from there, we just hit the ground running and moved forward. And so I went to my first egg retrieval and it was successful. She carried herself and it was successful. And then a couple years later, we did it again, and they have so they have a little boy. Well, now they're teenagers, but a son and a daughter through my egg donation. So it was for one family, but I donated twice for them.
That's wonderful. And for them too, of course, I'm sure they were just so grateful, but also it must have been so nice for them to know that you had already been through it. And, of course, even though each journey is unique, like you literally had been through an egg retrieval before, which most people have not.
Yeah.
And just that you could relate to some degree emotionally too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And they were, they're just amazing, amazing people and just best parents ever. So, I mean, it was the least I could do. And I was happy to do my part and help and let them be parents. And it's a feel good thing.
And you've stayed in touch, obviously. And
I have, yeah. So I have all these years. There was a sad ending to, the mom unfortunately was diagnosed with breast cancer and several years back had passed away. So that was and still is extremely heartbreaking. And that was really her and I became friends, right? And so that's where, she's one who shared the photos and the updates and we stayed connected. So when that happened, it was, I'm not as involved or I never was really involved, but I received updates. And so that really, that's definitely has declined a little bit, but he's, he has 3 children that he's, raising but we have contacts and get updates here and there, but it's really the ball's in his court for sure. And I respect that totally.
Right, right.
Thank you for kind of walking through your own experiences, both as building your family and helping others build theirs. Do you mind talking a little bit about your other baby, this company that you've built to support so many different families?
Yes, that's the hype of my day every day. So yeah, yes. Any questions, or I'm happy to share. Absolutely. And I can start off also just by sharing that, we've had well over 1,000 babies born through our agency today. And, just seeing the field that we're in, surrogacy and egg donation, just how it's so much advanced since we've opened the doors, back in 2007. And, a wonderful team started out as a very small agency with just a handful of team members to now we have well over 30 and amazing team. So
that's great. So you are a full service agency, both on the egg donation side and the surrogacy side.
Yep.
For those that don't know, will you tell them a little bit just about like the sort of the biggest steps, particularly where they relate to the services that you all provide?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the intended parents perspective, I really feel the biggest steps is really just opening the door to reaching out, right? Gathering information, obtaining as much information that they can have to really make a very well-informed decision. And so many intended parents come to us at different, for various reasons, whether they're like me and they've had a hysterectomy and they know this is the path they have to take or that they choose to take to build their family, or maybe they have experienced losses or they have, unexplained infertility, or maybe they themselves have experienced, cancer. And so whatever it may be, maybe they're using an egg donor, maybe they're not. So I really think it's most important is just reaching out to us, gathering information, and we're very transparent in the process. I know there's it's a the costs that are involved, between the IVF, the fertility center portion, the legal portion, compensation, agency fees, legal fees. So it's a big step, and it's very overwhelming for intended parents. But again, we have a pretty tremendous team that has a lot of experience and compassion with what they do. So.
And again, I think you're very open about your own experience. So I feel like it probably is very comforting to people that are coming to you either on the intended parent side or as donors or carriers, that you have gone through those aspects yourself.
Yeah, I feel that we're very relatable for sure. Myself, and then about 75% of our team members have gone through the process as well in one way or another. Well, whether they've been a carrier themselves, or they've been egg donors, or an intended parent, or a recipient parent just needing the donor portion only. And then we have a few that have gone through IVF to build their family. So definitely our team members have that personal experience as well as many years of professional experience as well. So I think we are very relatable, and it does serve a sense of support for our clients and donors and carriers.
Well, like you were saying, unfortunately, the costs of surrogacy can be so daunting. But I just want to assure you and our listeners that at least on the advocacy side, we're advocating in the states where we're working to make sure that at least, even if someone is using a carrier, the IVF should be covered if IVF is covered in that state, because we get so upset when we see these kind of whatever you want to call them, like disclaimers that the IVF is not covered if it's going to be transferred into a gestational carrier. And we just feel like that is so wrong. The steps of the procedure is still similar. It's just that there's different people involved. And so we're trying. It is getting better. I think as we have new states pass, I think there's more of a recognition. But even here in Massachusetts, where our organization is based, we've had our law for so long that it doesn't explicitly reference surrogacy. So then the insurers have specifically sometimes added that disclaimer that it won't be covered. And we feel like it's so unfair.
Well, and thank you so much too for all the advocacy that you do there at All Paths Family, because we just hosted an event this past Saturday, and that was a very large topic for our guest speakers. I was one of them. And then we had an attorney, a fertility doctor, and a mental health specialist on the guest panel. And we really did talk about the advocacy of insurance covering the IVF. And while, we're seeing, a little bit of push and forward, and we're seeing, some, I guess, wins, there's so much work to be done. And, it's just a conversation that needs to be had. And whether it's with an employer directly or, it doesn't have to, everybody has to, they don't all have to go to Washington to make this big, but just the little steps to really could be ultimately a huge win. And anytime that we can advocate for that, we want to put ourselves in that place and do just that. Because just think of how many hopeful parents out there that just give up or they can't because of the financial burden. And I think there's a lot of work to be done. And so again, thank you for your part. And I also want to add on there too, if you don't mind, and it's not just for surrogacy, but it's, for the egg donation route as well. IVF in general, for any, for third party reproduction, it's very daunting. And so if we can all play our parts and just push this forward, I think, it's what we all have to do. And so many professionals and have, I believe, really stepped up to the plate and continue to do so. And I love seeing that advocacy, but I really want to ensure that our own clients are doing that too. Don't feel like a door is closed and you can't kind of knock on it, and go talk to your employer and see what they can really do to get that help. Even not only the IVF portion, but even, once the baby's born, being able to stay home with your child or having that time, that's precious time, with your newborn, and extending that family leave with your employer.
Absolutely. I think the other question that a lot of people have, obviously the financial considerations are kind of forefront in a lot of folks' minds. It's just that there's so much unknown about the process still about using a gestational carrier or an egg donor, as much as conversations have started.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. The unknowns are very scary and daunting for the intended parents, for sure. And a lot of those unknowns have not changed through the years. And you would think, as we feel surrogacy and egg donation is so common, everybody should feel this way, right? But they really don't. And it's scary, right? So, a lot of those unknowns are, I feel, when we're approached by intended parents, are the support that they're going to receive, the intended parents, going through the process from start to finish till even after they have, success and their children are born. And that it really takes a great deal of professionals for this to happen. So, the fertility center, the agency piece, the surrogacy, and or maybe an egg donor, the legal piece, the escrow, the, state laws. Surrogacy is obviously it's state by state depending on the parentage. So and then all in all the cost, right? So back in the day, everybody thought that surrogacy was just for celebrities or people who could afford it, and now I think there are so many different ways now to advocate to, whether it's through grants or what have you, different avenues there to be able to afford it as well. And obviously the question we still always receive to this day that we received back in 2007 is, can the carrier, does she have rights to the child? What if she wants to keep the child? Or what if she feels really attached to the child? And so the intended parents still to this day ask that. And our answer has remained the same because it has not pivoted at all. And that the surrogates or the gestational carriers, of course they care about the baby, the children, but not in a maternal way. They're just so elated to see the happiness on the parent's face when the baby's born. And so really, I think the fear of not having control over every process, right, for parents. So, but yeah, there's a lot of the unknowns that's pretty scary for the parents, but we're here to support them along the way as well as the carriers. So it's our goal to ensure that they have not only a successful journey, but a positive journey and feel supported.
That's great.
Could you maybe break down that journey like step by step? Because I think a lot of people also have questions about, like, what does this time frame look like? If we've made this decision, we're reaching out to an agency, what do we expect next?
What do we do now?
Yeah. Now that we've taken that first step, like what does the rest of that path look like?
Yeah, so absolutely. So many of our hopeful parents come to us and they haven't even contacted their fertility center yet, or the legal piece. So we're really their first point of contact at that point. And they know for sure that they want to build the family through surrogacy. So at that point, we will, of course, offer recommendations or referrals to fertility centers, attorneys. But the very first step for them is to decide what are they looking for within their carrier. How can we best match them with a carrier that we feel is they're going to have a smooth journey, and vice versa, because it is a mutual matching process. The surrogate also shares with us what's important to her, for the intended parents that she carries for. But ultimately, the entire journey, we typically estimate from sign-up time with our agency till baby in hand is usually right around 18 months or so. It just really depends on, how quickly they can create their embryos. Sometimes they come to us and they have their embryos created. And then the matching process, that can take 4 to 6 months from the time that they contact us. And then, of course, as we all know, is it successful in the first transfer, so on and so forth. But from sign-up time to the baby really being born, I would say it's right around 18 months. Could be a little bit longer depending on if there are any bumps in the road that may happen that we have to pivot and get back on path.
Thank you for sharing that. So again, thinking back to your own, or especially your own experience trying to become a parent, but also all the many people and families you've worked with over the years, what is some advice you would give to someone just starting their own family building journey? And then sort of counter to that, what is something you wish no one would ever say to someone trying to grow their family?
Yeah, those are two really great questions. Some of the advice that I would give to hopeful parents during their journey is to really um, get educated as much as they can. Ask as many questions. Be prepared. Um, and then at the end of the day, go with your gut as far as what team do you want to align with to help you reach your goal. Talk to as many fertility centers, gather success rates, talk to, have conversations and consultations with agencies. And who do you really feel is the best partner for you? And of course, I will always say, don't give up. Don't give up that hope, because I was once in those shoes. And many times I thought after, we had failures that maybe it's just not meant to be. And this is expensive. But I'm so glad that we, pushed forward, because our son is now 19 and we had that success. So really just gather and ask away. I think that's really important.
And what do you hate to hear?
Oh, goodness. I would say at the end of the day, we hear a lot of the feedback from our hopeful parents that have been going through the process. And, of course, they've been stressed out, and they get a lot of feedback from others who have never experienced infertility. And, where they share, well, if you just relax, it'll happen, that just relax your body a little bit in your mind. And yes. And, you just have to have a relaxed mind, a relaxed body, and you'll get pregnant. And unless you're experienced in that, I think that's kind of a little kick in the gut to hear that, right? Of course, these hopeful parents have tried when they've experienced heartaches and infertility. I'm sure they would stand on their head for 9 months if they had to
Right.
achieve a pregnancy, right? To have their baby. But yeah, I think the unwarranted advice from people sometimes, and it's not their fault. They just don't know better,
Right.
but
Well, and you're too nice to do this, but it's like when someone says something like that, you almost want to be like, I had a hysterectomy. Like, no matter how much I relax, I'm not going to be able to have a baby. Like, because
it's just not going to happen no
it's
matter
just
what I
so
do.
like that's like an extreme example, perhaps, but like it's just such a crutch to say something like that, and yet it's so hurtful when you're going through it.
It
And
is
so
so
that's why
hurtful.
sometimes I won't say you because you're too kind, but me, I feel like I reacted sometimes in ways that I normally wouldn't, but just because I was so triggered by saying that, just like,
Yes, you're so
no,
triggered.
I've been on many vacations. That has not been the answer,
Right,
I
exactly.
wish it was, but these things often
Exactly.
cannot be solved by herbal tea and a vacation.
Right. We wish it was all that
Yeah.
easy, right?
Yeah, for
But it
sure.
unfortunately is not. And, when you want something so much to be a parent, it's very heartbreaking to hear that. And again, advocacy, I think it's so important that we're all playing our part and pushing forward in any way that we can. So these, the support groups are it's night and day. Like I said, even from when I started to today, I wish we had all pass, back in the day, but it was very limited. So grateful for everything that we have now.
That's great. And we're going to be doing some virtual advocacy trainings too,
Love it.
because we've been hearing from people that say like, I want to advocate, but like I'm scared and I don't know how to do it. And, there's actually really, I feel like very relaxed ways you can do it. And so we want to help people feel informed about advocating. So we'll keep you posted on that too.
Yes, please do. And I think too, once people do take that step forward and advocate, they realize that, wow, there are so many people that are doing this. And then they get more comfortable doing it. And then it's like, I want to keep doing it. And that's what we want, right? We want everybody to forge ahead and do that. So just getting their toe in the water and start advocating. And then just that, initially just moving forward with that, makes all the difference. For people who have much more, many more options out there to reach their goal and their success.
That's great.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Staci, for chatting with us today. If people listening are interested in kind of learning more about you and your work as it pertains to egg donation and surrogacy, how's best for them to get in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. We have all of our contact details on our website, familysourceconsultants.com. They can certainly send an email over to info@familysourceconsultants.com, and we will get back with them immediately. Information or education, anything that we can do to help.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We hope you'll join us next time for more family building stories and resources. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts to make sure you never miss an episode. And follow us on social media at allpathsfb, or visit our website, allpathsfb.org, for more information about our work. All Paths Family Building is so grateful to the members of our circle of support who are vital to our ability to provide emotional support, education, and advocacy that is open to anyone struggling to grow their families. Today, we want to give a special thank you to our bronze sponsor, Boston IVF. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Please help spread the word so that anyone who is struggling to grow their family can join the conversation. It's an honor to walk with you on your family building journey.